tried to profit from it and don't stand to profit from it either. So I don't reduce to a racket, but I think that racketeering is and always has been an important part of religion. Some religions simply are rackets. Scientology, for example, or Mormonism. It's nothing more than the record of a successful con job. But the spiritual life can't be entirely reduced to that, and here's the problem. When you ask, do people really believe that? There can't be an answer to it, because they don't know any more than you do whether there was a virgin birth or a resurrection. If they say, I believe it, they're still believing in something that they have to know very probably didn't take place. So what are they asking us to believe? They're asking us to believe their propensity to faith, in other words, to take something on faith without argument or evidence. Well, if somebody wants me to believe that of them, that they will do that, then I will, but I feel that they're arguing against themselves and probably doing themselves an injustice.
You think Billy Graham's an evil man?
Yes. And once you've got over the revelation, which wasn't much of a revelation to me, of what a squalid little bigot President Nixon was, I guessed I knew that, you find that he's outmatched by the way that Billy Graham talks. Well, it doesn't mind, he does that in private and harbours that stuff in private, and then goes out and rakes in the cash for preaching brotherhood and compassion. It's enough to make you sick.
Who's an American president that you admire?
And there's no president who, however deserving of condemnation, who can't get Billy Graham to come to his side at just the point he's about ready to, or should be about ready to be either impeached or to make some kind of public apology or change of policy. No, this sort of valet, this religious valet, is always at their hand, saying, no, no, I can make this look good for you. I can be your religious PR man. Power worshipper, cronyism, bigotry. It's a very unattractive combination. And then going around spouting lies to young people for a living, lying to the young for a living. What a horrible career. I gather it's soon to be over. I certainly hope so.
Who's an American president you admire?
Well, can I start from the beginning? I mean,
sure.
Yeah. Well, I didn't choose Mr. Jefferson as my subject. I was asked if I would do him. But he's clearly, in many ways, the most admirable because he's the most various. I mean, he could have been a great lawyer. He could have been a great architect. He could have been a great paleontologist. He could have been a great author in innumerable ways. He was a man of really extraordinary talent. The only thing he was bad at was his actual job, which was farming. But then the tobacco and slave economy sort of deserved to fail, I guess. And of course, his role in deepening and prolonging the institution of slavery is the great outstanding black mark against him. But he's the most extraordinary of the presidents, I believe, and certainly of the founding ones. Mr. Lincoln's the most probably absorbing one to study psychologically. Of the more recent ones, I think the man who used to live in my building, General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower. I see there's a new biography of him by Michael Korda to be coming out. I'm definitely going to see it because I have a feeling that he hasn't had justice quite done to him yet.
Next call for Christopher Hitchens, Portland, Oregon.
Yes, sir, I've enjoyed listening to you speak. I'd like to know of the politicians on the scene now, who would you vote for president in the coming election?
I have no plans to vote for any of them.
Are you going to vote? Probably
not.
Really?
Look, well, I have a column, you know, and I have people have me on TV, and I go on the radio all the time. I can tell people my opinions. I don't feel I have no means of expressing my preferences or my views, but there's no individual who could do that for me, who might hand my franchise and say, okay, I'd like you to represent me. No, none of this crowd anyway.
But you're a citizen now.
Yeah, I know. It's a waste, isn't it? It's a shame because I live in Washington, D.C., where the vote is meaningless we're disenfranchised for Congress. Still have to pay taxes, but disenfranchised. And I don't have a party affiliation, and there's no politician I like. But I will, of course, in the end vote for whoever takes the toughest line on Iraq.
What about as a symbol of democracy?
But I'm not. The funny thing is, you see, it's not yet clear to me who that will be, or even if there will be one. It's quite possible that there won't be a candidate who represents my views on Iraq.
What about as a symbol of democracy, though? Isn't that important to vote?
No. I know what you mean. I know that people say, think of all the struggles and sacrifices that it took. Well, these include my right to abstain.
Cary, North Carolina, you're on with Christopher Hitchens.
Yes, Christopher, thank you for your work and your appearance. I contend that the press in the USA is a quasi-governmental agency because of their constitutional protection, but they're unaccountable as the other three branches are. I think this is a serious lapse and causes a lot of damage. I think we need to reform somehow and make the press accountable. What are your opinions?
Sometimes, I can't think of anything to say. Hardest thing to admit if you're someone like me, and especially if you're on the air, say nothing occurs to me.
Joan Judge.
Better that than blather than anything.
Joan Judge, Hudson, Massachusetts. I once heard you call Colin Powell the world's most overrated human being. Would you comment on his role in perpetuating the Wilson Plame debacle? What do you think motivated him to let the country, not to mention the individuals involved, suffer through this ordeal?
It's true. What I said about Colin Powell was that having more or less been elected as the most overrated man in the United States, he was going for the gold to be the most overrated man in the world. I don't understand it at all. It's all reputation as far as I can see, but basically done by kissing up and kissing down, and never better illustrated in this case than by his willingness to support the president when he thought things were going that way in Iraq, and then to subtly undermine him with a campaign of leaks and disinformation when things were getting sticky in Iraq. And the lady questioner is absolutely right. It is a scandal that Mr. Powell's best friend and colleague and protege, Mr. Armitage, always knew that he was the man who'd given Ms. Plame's identity to Robert Novak, and just watched many of his colleagues be put through a hideous legal mill when a word from him could have stopped the whole thing. A gigantic waste of government time, colossal waste of resources, huge acreage of tedium and misinformation in the press, which thought it had a story when it didn't, and quite an unforgivable performance by the State Department and really everyone in it, and the fish rotting right from the head in this case.
Trent Whitney, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You have at times defined yourself as a Trotskyite, but I've never heard you speak to what that political philosophy means.
Well, you should say Trotskyist, by the way. It's a point of etiquette. It's too complicated to explain.
He does, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
But fine. He does, he got it right.
Well, this goes back to something that seems rather arcane now, but was very vivid at one point, which was the split in the socialist movement between the supporters of Joseph Stalin and the supporters of what was known in Russia as the left opposition, whose leader was Leon Trotsky, one of the original Bolshevik revolutionaries and the founder of the Red Army, who, after being expelled from the Soviet Union in 1927, tried to set up an international revolutionary organization to oppose Joseph Stalin and his policies, and also to warn against the rise of Hitler. Trotsky's best writing, if you ever want to look any of this up, is his writing warning the German workers what would happen if Hitler came to power, and everyone else in the world too. By far the most prescient, more so than anything even that